Good morning. I'm Josiah Ford, broker of JFI Real Estate Brokerage here in Frisco, Texas. I just wanted to talk to you guys about lease to own or rent to own properties. I'm hearing a lot of people contact me and say, hey, I'd like to lease to own or rent to own. Um, and ultimately, I don't feel like that's the best thing for the tenant to do. I've heard horror stories. I know what's in those situations. I don't ultimately think 9 times out of 10 they are the best thing for the tenant or the purchaser. And let me back up just a little bit though. And explain to you there are some positives, and like I said, 9 times out of 10. So there is that little small percentage where it works well for the tenants, but most of the time it doesn't. Uh, you know, if you're looking to purchase a property and you don't have the credit at that time and you want to tie up a property, or you don't have the down payment, and you want to make sure, hey, that's the house I want, and you want to make sure you have an opportunity to purchase it. And if all the things go right, all the stars align, then it works for you. But when I look back at it, most of the time the stars don't align for these. Um, a lot of the negatives are the money. You know, a lot of times you pay extra, either more on a down payment rather than just a deposit and rent that you would have for a lease. Maybe it'd be a little bit larger, or you're paying a little bit on top of your regular rent to be able to make up a difference that you're going to actually have go towards the purchase when you agree with it. So realize also, when you enter in that lease, there's two different agreements basically. There's a lease and there's an option to purchase. You don't own that property. But another negative is they're gonna make you, deal with the maintenance. If they're a sophisticated investor, they're gonna make you deal with the maintenance yourself. Unlike a regular lease where you lease the property and the air conditioning goes out and you go, hey, you know what, the air conditioning's gone out, it's no fault of mine. They find that out, and they come and fix it. Whereas in the lease to own, you're responsible for that. A lot of times you will sign over your rights for that. And you have landlords who may or may not want this property anymore. Whatever financial situations they're in, they stop paying mortgage payments, stop paying taxes, realize that they still technically own the property. And if they get foreclosed on for tax liens or for not paying the mortgage, you're going to be out on the street. Judgments as well. Prices may fall over time, and you have an agreement with that landlord for this property that really now you might want to renegotiate a couple years later. And I think also another thing that people do is time wise. People typically live in a property 3 to 5 years right now. People are moving fast. We find something, we like it, it's nice, it's new, it looks good, and then very quickly it's not nice and new anymore. When you get into these properties, a lot of people aren't doing home inspections on these properties, and they find out when they live there, they find out a ton of problems. So now you've made a commitment for something and you're paying on something that you don't like. In a lease, you get to move on, and you didn't pay anything extra. You just paid what you need to pay to stay there, and you moved on when you figured out, there's a whole bunch of problems with that house that you don't want to have to deal with. And then lastly, another part of control, a sophisticated landlord is going to typically make you sign a quit claim deed. And a lot of people don't know what that is. They sign it anyway, and you lose a rent payment and not pay it, or do something that's outside the lease. The landlord will evict you, and they have that already signed quitclaim deed that they can file and get you out of the house really quickly. No struggle or fight that you may have in eviction court, that you might have leverage. You pay rent and you might stay a little longer. Not that I like those, because I've been a landlord before and those are not fun. where, you know, this person's not paying the rent and they're still finding a way to stay there, but you might need that time to be able to find a new place. It's just, you know, it's life. It's what it is. You know, and if you miss payments, you may lose your right to actually purchase the property. You know, there's a ton of things that can go wrong. So at the end of the day, I feel like on the buyer or tenant's perspective, you need to lease or outright purchase property from the beginning. You know, if at the end of that lease you really love that house or somewhere in the middle of it, now I would want to make that agreement with the owner. Hey, I love this house. We're going to stay here. And you know you're going to stay there. Then I would say, hey, we'd like to purchase the property. And that's when you tie that up to make sure that that landlord cannot sell it to somebody else, or, you know, you get what you want. But going into it before, I think people are going into it a little bit too blind. And they don't know what can go wrong. And they don't realize that there's a lot that can go wrong, that's going to, you know, mess them up from getting what they really want. So again, just trying to give advice to people out there who are looking to lease or purchase properties. Those are the two options I think are the best ones for you. Again, I'm Josiah Ford. If you have any questions, contact me at www.teamforddfw.com or 214-425-3525. Thank you.